Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving deep into music and creativity with Andrew A.J. Johnson.
Oh, yeah, I've seen his stuff.
He's been making music for 15 years, sharing amazing insights on his YouTube channel.
Cool.
We're breaking down his 8 key takeaways, but here's the thing. These lessons aren't just for musicians.
Okay.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll see how they apply to any creative field,
Really? I'm intrigued.
and maybe even your own life. What really struck me is that Johnson doesn't just talk about the artistic process.
Yeah,
He dives into the nitty-gritty, the highs and lows of the entire creative journey.
that's refreshing, getting real about it.
Exactly. And he starts strong, saying energy is everything.
Hmm.
Not just on stage, but in every aspect of creating. What were
Yeah.
your initial thoughts on that?
It resonated with me instantly. We often think of energy as just physical, but Johnson goes beyond that. He
Right.
talks about mental energy, emotional energy,
Oh, wow.
even spiritual energy as crucial for the creative process.
It's like that feeling when you're completely in the zone, everything just flows.
Exactly. And he even admits to struggling with wanting to hide imperfections,
Oh, yeah.
knowing they might still show up in his work.
I think we've all been there.
Totally.
Striving for perfection while juggling a million things behind the scenes.
And that's where authenticity comes in. Johnson's willingness to be vulnerable, to embrace those imperfections, is what makes his work relatable.
Like those artists you connect with on a deeper level because they're not afraid to be themselves.
Exactly. Think about the artists you're most drawn to.
Yeah.
It's often the flaws, their unique quirks that make them so compelling.
It's like they're giving us permission to be ourselves, imperfections and all.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on. Johnson talks about patience being like a creative partner.
Oh, interesting.
He believes music, like any art form, needs time to breathe, to develop organically.
I like that, letting things unfold naturally.
And get this, he has projects that took him 10 years to complete.
Whoa, really?
But what's fascinating is that he doesn't see that time as wasted.
Mm.
He talks about how those years allowed him to experiment, refine his ideas, let the music evolve.
It's like aging a fine wine, allowing the flavors to mature over time.
Such a powerful lesson, especially today when everything feels so rushed.
Yeah.
What do you think about applying this long game approach to other fields?
It's a challenge for sure.
Right.
We're so used to instant gratification, cultivating patience can be tough.
Yeah.
But Johnson shows us those rewarding creations, the ones that simmer for a while. They're the ones we let develop at their own pace.
Like those aha moments after stepping away from a project, coming back with fresh eyes.
Exactly. Sometimes distance brings clarity.
Now, for a reality check, Johnson talks about dealing with criticism. From harsh online comments to feedback, even from loved ones.
We've all been there.
Instead of shutting down or dismissing it, he leans into introspection,
That's impressive.
using criticism as fuel for growth,
Uh-huh.
taking time to reflect and understand the feedback.
It's about separating constructive criticism from just plain noise.
Right. It makes you think about how we often react defensively instead of seeing it as a learning opportunity.
For sure. It's about building resilience and learning to filter the noise.
It ties back to authenticity. When we're true to ourselves, our work aligns with our values. It's easier to focus on what matters.
Absolutely. Now, this next part surprised me.
Huh.
Johnson creates a ton of music, but he's very selective about what he releases.
Wow.
It's not just throwing everything online.
He's curating his own narrative, shaping how his art is perceived.
Right. He talks about balancing pushing boundaries with creating work that's still accessible.
That's interesting. It raises the question, how do he choose what to present to the world? What influences those decisions?
It's a mix of our values, goals, maybe even our fears. It's finding that sweet spot where we feel authentic A&D connect with our audience.
It's a constant balancing act, for sure.
Absolutely. And what stands out to you about Johnson's approach?
Well, his intentionality is inspiring. It reminds us that we have the power to shape our own narratives, even when it feels like everything's on display.
I agree. It's a powerful reminder.
Okay, get ready for a back-to-basics moment, because Johnson is all L about mastering the fundamentals.
The foundation, the building blocks.
Exactly. Music theory, technique, all of it.
Makes sense.
He believes a strong foundation in these allows for more freedom and creativity later.
Like having a solid framework to build upon.
Right. And he doesn't just talk the talk.
Oh.
He breaks down what musical theory entails, explaining how understanding scales, chords, rhythms can open up a whole new world of possibilities.
It's like learning a new language. The grammar and vocabulary allows for nuanced expression.
Perfect analogy. And here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Johnson distinguishes between practicing fundamentals and actually performing.
Interesting.
He says in the moment, it's not about overthinking the technical stuff.
So what is it about?
Letting go, trusting your instincts, allowing the music to flow through you.
Like an athlete who's trained rigorously, they don't analyze every move during competition.
Exactly. They trust their preparation, let muscle memory take over.
And that applies to so many creative fields.
That's right.
Writers, designers, entrepreneurs.
It's all about finding the balance between honed skills and trusting your gut in the moment.
It makes you wonder, what are the fundamentals in your field? How do you find that balance between preparation and spontaneity?
Great questions. Now, this next insight is especially relevant today.
Go on.
Johnson acknowledges collaboration in music, but champions the DIY spirit.
Interesting. Especially in today's digital world.
He talks about technology empowering musicians to take control of their creative process.
From start to finish.
Recording, producing, even distributing their music independently.
Wow.
He even admits to trade-offs with this DIY approach, sometimes sacrificing polish or expertise in certain areas.
Makes sense. You can't be an expert at everything.
But for Johnson, the freedom and creative control outweigh those drawbacks.
So it's about owning your art, making decisions that feel right for you.
Absolutely.
Well,
Even if it means learning new skills or wearing multiple hats.
it's a powerful reminder that we don't always need permission or validation to pursue our passions.
And it brings up another important point, knowing your limitations and when to seek collaboration.
Right. Johnson enjoys DIY, but recognizes the value of experts when needed.
Being honest with yourself about what you're good at and where you might need support.
And that's a crucial skill, not just in creative fields, but in life in general.
Knowing when to ask for help can save so much time, energy, and frustration.
Agreed. Now, speaking of efficiency, Johnson dives into production skills in music,
Okay.
highlighting the need for clear decisions about tools and effects used.
I like how he compares it to decluttering your workspace.
Keeping things streamlined.
He says too many options can stifle creativity. It's about the tools that work best for you.
And having a streamlined workflow.
He even shares specific organizational strategies for music files, notes, references.
So it's about a system that allows focusing on creativity without logistical overwhelm.
Sometimes the simplest practices have the biggest impact on productivity and creativity. What organizational tips or tools have you found helpful in your work?
Project management software has been a game changer, keeping track of tasks and deadlines.
Staying organized is key. And finally, Johnson shares his secret weapon for staying creatively energized.
I'm all ears.
A thirst for knowledge and a willingness to keep learning.
Never stop growing.
He emphasizes staying curious, exploring new genres, reading, seeking inspiration outside his field.
Expanding your horizons.
He talks about how listening to different music expanded his creative palette.
Keeping things fresh and exciting.
It's a reminder that learning is lifelong. The more we expose ourselves to new ideas and perspectives, the more we grow creatively and personally.
Makes you wonder what untapped potential is waiting to be unlocked by new experiences and knowledge.
It's like Johnson is saying, the key is to never stop exploring, asking questions, and never lose that curiosity.
Always stay curious. Always keep learning.
Exactly. And I think that's a perfect note to end on for today.
I agree.
We'll pick up the rest of this deep dive next time.
Yeah.
Until then, think about that untapped potential waiting to be unlocked.
And keep those questions coming.
We'll see you in the next part of our deep dive.
See you then. Yeah, it's a good reminder that we have that power.
Totally. Okay, get ready for a back to basics moment, because Johnson is all L about mastering the fundamentals.
Like the foundation.
Exactly. Music theory, technique,
Yeah.
all the building blocks.
Gotcha.
He believes having that strong foundation allows for more freedom and creativity later.
Like a solid framework to build on.
Right. And he doesn't just talk the talk. He breaks down what musical theory actually is.
Okay.
Explains how understanding scales, chords, rhythms
Yeah.
can open up a whole new world for a musician.
It's like learning a new language, right?
Perfect analogy.
Once you have the grammar and vocabulary,
Uh-huh.
you can express yourself in way more nuanced and complex ways.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Johnson distinguishes between practicing those fundamentals and actually performing.
Makes sense. They're different.
He says in the moment, it's not about overthinking the technical stuff.
So what is it about then?
Letting go, trusting your instincts,
Okay.
allowing the music to flow through you.
Interesting.
He uses this analogy of an athlete who's trained super hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they're competing, they don't have time to analyze every move.
Right.
They trust their preparation, let muscle memory take over,
I get it.
and that applies to so many creative fields.
Totally. Writers, designers.
Entrepreneurs.
Yeah, anyone really.
It's all about finding that balance,
Between,
honing your skills, and then trusting your gut in the moment.
it makes you think, what are the fundamentals in your own field?
Right.
And how do you find that balance between the preparation and the spontaneity?
Great questions to consider. Now, this next insight is especially relevant today.
Oh, yeah.
Johnson acknowledges the collaborative nature of music, but he's also a huge champion for the DIY spirit.
Interesting, especially in today's digital world.
Right. He talks about how technology has empowered musicians to take control of their entire creative process.
Really, start to finish.
Recording, producing, even distributing their music independently.
That's pretty amazing.
He's honest, though. He admits there are trade-offs to this DIY approach.
Like what?
Sometimes it means sacrificing a bit of polish or maybe expertise in certain areas.
Well, yeah, you can't be an expert at everything.
But for Johnson, the freedom and creative control outweigh those drawbacks.
So it's about really owning your art, making the decisions that feel right for you.
Exactly. Even if it means learning new skills or wearing multiple hats.
It's empowering, reminding us that we don't always need permission or validation to pursue our passions.
Absolutely. And it brings up another point. Knowing your limitations, when to seek collaboration.
Right, because even though Johnson loves DIY, he recognizes the value of bringing in experts sometimes.
Exactly. Being honest with yourself about what you're good at and where you might need support.
And honestly, that's a crucial skill in any Y field.
Totally.
Not just creative ones, but in life in general.
Knowing when to ask for help can save you so much time and energy.
And frustration. Okay, speaking of efficiency,
Yeah.
Johnson dives into the importance of production skills, specifically in music,
Yeah.
highlighting the need to make clear decisions about the tools and effects you use.
He uses this great analogy of decluttering your workspace.
I like that, keeping it simple.
Too many options can stifle creativity. It's about finding what works best for you.
And having a streamlined workflow.
He even gets into specific organizational strategies.
Oh, wow, like what?
How he keeps his music files, notes, references, all in order.
That makes sense.
It's about creating a system that lets you focus on being creative.
Without getting bogged down in the logistics.
Exactly.
Oh.
Sometimes the simplest practices make the biggest difference in productivity and creativity. What are some organizational tips or tools UVD found helpful?
For me, honestly, project management software changed everything. Keeping track of all my tasks and deadlines.
Staying organized is so key. And finally, Johnson shares what he considers his secret weapon
Okay, I'm intrigued.
for staying creatively energized. A thirst for knowledge and a willingness to keep learning.
Never stop growing, right?
He emphasizes the importance of staying curious,
Okay.
exploring new genres, reading, seeking inspiration outside his field.
Expanding those horizons.
He actually talks about how listening to different types of music has expanded his own creative palette.
Makes sense, keeping things fresh.
It's a good reminder that learning is a lifelong process.
Totally agree.
The more we expose ourselves to new ideas and perspectives, the more we grow creatively and depersonally.
It really makes you wonder what's out there, you know?
Yeah, like what potential is just waiting to be unlocked?
By new experiences, new knowledge.
It's like Johnson saying the key is to never stop exploring
Keep asking questions.
and never lose that curiosity.
It's a childlike wonder.
I love that. And I think that's a perfect note to wrap up on.
Yeah, I agree.
This deep dive into the creative mind of Andrew A.J. Johnson.
It's been inspiring.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling super energized.
Oh, totally.
Ready to tackle some new creative projects.
Me too. His insights have definitely given me a fresh perspective.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And before we go, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
If you could ask Johnson one question about his creative journey,
Just one question.
what would it be?
That's a good one.
Let us know in the comments.
Maybe his insights will spark some new ideas for you too.
Until next time, keep creating.
And keep exploring.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
See you then.